Like and subscribe right now, or this spider is gonna crawl on your face while you're sleeping.
12 most haunted cities in the world. The world is a magnificent place filled with surprises. Every region has something to offer. Either it is the culture or the traditions that have lived on for centuries, or just the amazing people who never let the city fall asleep. While most of the cities around the world are famous for their tourist attractions, architecture, or being rich in cultural heritage, there are some that hide some haunting secrets. Let's talk about the most haunting cities from around the world and what secrets they have to share. Do you want to know if the city you live in is haunted? Or would you rebook your vacation if your city appears on our list today? Let us know in the comments below. So, without any delay, here are the 12 most haunted cities in the world. Number 12. Voltri, Italy. In the small village of Voltri in Liguria stands an ominous-looking house next to a winding road. The house, Cadel Anime, was once an inn owned by a family that suffered from mental problems. The family would drop heavy pieces of furniture on their sleeping patrons, who died terrible deaths from being crushed and suffocated. They would then steal the dead guests' money and other belongings before adding their bodies to a mass grave they had constructed. It is said that the spirits of the victims are restless because they cannot leave the house they were murdered in. They wander the halls and rooms of the terrifying house, moving furniture and dropping crockery to make their presence known. Before we move on, I've got a little challenge for you that will take just 5 seconds to complete. So here's the deal. You just leave a like on this video, smash that subscribe button, and hit the notification bell and you get 25 years of amazing luck. Try it. It really works. Number 11. Kaldhara, India. Kaldhara in India used to be inhabited by the Paliwal Brahmins until they all abandoned the village overnight in 1825. The story goes that a Diwan fell in love with the daughter of the village chieftain and threatened the Paliwal Brahmins with exorbitant taxes if they did not hand over the girl to him. Hence, they disappeared overnight and left a curse in their wake. Anyone who attempted to make the village their home would lose their lives. Kaldhara remains abandoned except for tourists and paranormal investigators passing through its streets. Investigators have reported seeing unexplained apparitions, as well as being touched on the shoulder by an unseen presence during their visits there. Perhaps most chilling is the discovery of handprints on their vehicles after they completed their investigation. Number 10. Estes Park, Colorado. Estes Park, Colorado seems like nothing special at first sight, but if you ever plan to visit, don't stay in one of the city's countless haunted hotels. Apart from the Baldpate Inn, which is said to house the ghosts of its founders, Estes Park's most famous hotel is the Stanley Hotel. A beautiful hotel with a view of the Rocky Mountains, it helped to inspire Stephen King's novel, The Shining. When King visited the hotel, he reported seeing ghostly children in a party in the ballroom featuring otherworldly guests. The Stanley was founded in 1909 and was Colorado's first hotel with electricity. During a thunderstorm in 1911, the lights went out, and a chambermaid was sent to light the gas lights. A gas leak caused a massive explosion when she stepped into room 217. The woman survived and continued to work at the Stanley until her death. She is now said to haunt the hotel room. She reportedly folds visitors' clothes and stacks them away. Number 9. Prague, Czech Republic. The city of Prague is often considered to be one of the most beautiful in Europe. Apart from beautiful architecture and rich history, Prague also has its own collection of legends and ghosts. One of Prague's most famous ghosts is the Mad Barber, a lost soul condemned to walk the streets at night. He lost his wife and went mad with grief. He slashed at passers-by with his razor and was beaten to death by soldiers. The begging skeleton, one of Prague's friendliest ghosts, tries to beg money from drunks. He is said to have been a beautiful and tall but very poor young man. A medical professor asked him if he would sell his skeleton. The young man agreed but died shortly after in a bar fight. His skeleton still roams the streets of Prague, trying to collect enough money to finally buy himself free. Number 8. Dublin, Ireland. Dublin is another old city in which mysteries and spooky places abound. Not only is Conley Station allegedly haunted by a poltergeist, but Dublin has the famous Hellfire Club as well. Originally designed as a hunting lodge for the rich, rumors of black masses and animal sacrifices soon spread. The skeleton of a dwarf was also discovered in a shallow grave just outside the club. Kavanagh's Pub, aka Gravediggers, next to Glasnevin Cemetery, is visited by the ghost of an old gentleman in tweed who takes his drinks at the bar and then vanishes. He is said to be a former gravedigger. In the crypt of St. Malkin's Church, bodies have been preserved for over 800 years. Coffins are stacked all over the place, and the limbs of the dead stand in weird angles. Visitors often report whispers, voices, and cold hands grabbing them. Number 7. Savannah, Georgia. Savannah has been called the city built upon its dead. Houses and squares have been built over mass graves from the Revolutionary War. It's not surprising, then, that the city has countless haunting locations. The Lucas Theater opened in 1921, closed in 1976 after showing The Exorcist, and reopened in 2001. During the restoration, unexplained occurrences were noted by the workers. Applause would be heard and tools disappeared. The Colonial Park Cemetery, opened in 1750, is said to be a regular site for voodoo rituals. Visiting mourners would find remnants of the ceremonies before the cemetery began closing at night. Number 6. Athens, Ohio. The Athens Lunatic Asylum was built in 1874 and was also known as the Ridges. Patients were treated with ice water baths, electric shocks, and lobotomies. In addition to the mentally ill, the facility housed the elderly and rebellious teenagers. The asylum also featured 2 haunted cemeteries. One of the cemetery's headstones form a circle, which was allegedly used by witches to perform their rites. One of the ghosts said to haunt the Ridges is Margaret Schilling, a patient who mysteriously disappeared in 1978. Her body was found a month later, and the outline of where she lay was stained into the ground. After it was removed, Margaret's shape returned over and over again. If you think a haunted asylum and 2 haunted cemeteries are enough to make Athens, Ohio a haunted city, you are mistaken. The town cemeteries form a pentagram. The university is said to be built on top of a Native American burial ground, and ghost towns like Mount Nebo are everywhere. Number 5. Rome, Italy. Rome has many ghost stories, and it's no wonder why. The whole city sits on catacombs, and many gruesome things have taken place there, like the execution of Beatrice Cinci. Beatrice was 22 years old when she was imprisoned in Castel Sant'Angelo for killing her abusive husband, and later executed. It is said that her ghost walks Sant'Angelo Bridge every year on September 11th with her head under her arm. There are many scary places in Rome to visit, but none of them are creepier than the museum and crypt of the Capuchins. The skeletons of more than 400 monks decorate this crypt. Chandeliers are made out of leg and arm bones, and skulls embedded in the walls. A sign there reads, "What you are, we once were. What we are, you will become." Number 4. Paris, France. While some might refer to it as the City of Love, Paris is also famous for its catacombs, but it has many more creepy places. In Le Musée des Vampires, you can visit the world's only real vampire hunter and his finds. Or you can venture to Rue Chanoinesse to visit the ghost of the man who was the inspiration for Sweeney Todd. He was a local barber who killed his victims, boiled their bones, and finally served their meat in patties. The Eiffel Tower is said to contain the ghost of a young girl who had planned to break up with her boyfriend the same night he intended to propose to her. He did so on top of the tower, and she declined. He threatened to push her from the tower, but she didn't believe him and laughed. So he pushed her. Allegedly, her laughter can be heard, and her ghostly figure can be seen from time to time. Number 3. Edinburgh, Scotland. The capital of Scotland has a very long and gruesome history. Look no further than the South Bridge Vaults. Built in the 18th century, the vaults were meant to house taverns and cobblers, but after a flood killed many poor souls in 1795, they were abandoned. The vaults remained forgotten until homelessness became a crime punishable by death. The poor went into the vaults, and illegal businesses soon spread in as well, including several brothels. The infamous body snatchers Burke and Hare reportedly hunted their victims in the vaults and sold their corpses to medical schools. Paranormal activity has become a nearly day-to-day occurrence in Edinburgh Castle. The staff has become accustomed to hearing music, footsteps, and voices. Another ghostly place is Greyfriars Kirkyard. Many famous people have been laid to rest here, and part of the cemetery is supposedly haunted by a poltergeist. Visitors strolling around the cemetery have left with bruises, scratches, and cuts. Number 2. London, England. London has the reputation of being one of the most haunted capitals in the world and features countless ghost stories. For example, in 1907, a man was walking along the London Wall when a hand suddenly stretched out of the wall and blocked his passage. Shocked, he turned away for a few seconds, and when he dared to look again, he saw a man in dark clothes who walked directly into the wall and disappeared. Another prominent ghost is the Highgate Vampire. The Highgate Cemetery was abandoned in the 1960s and left to decay. In its time, it was the most fashionable place to be buried, and Victorian families tried to outdo one another with elaborate gravestones and crypts. Several reports of ghostly encounters exist, many of them concerning the Highgate Vampire. How would you react if you're walking down a dark street along the edge of the cemetery and glimpsed a dark, tall shape with gleaming red eyes behind the gates? Enough people reported such an encounter that a vampire hunt occurred in the 1970s. It wasn't successful. Number 1. New Orleans, Louisiana. New Orleans is one of the most haunted cities in the world. Founded in 1718, it has seen more than a little bloodshed. It's probably the only place in the world where an allegedly haunted house is actually more expensive than a normal one. New Orleans is a city of voodoo, and voodoo queen Marie Laveau rests in St. Louis Cemetery, the most haunted cemetery in the world. She is said to wander the cemetery on St. John's Eve, which falls on June 23rd. Phantoms of yellow fever victims and fallen Civil War soldiers have been reported countless times at the cemetery. The house of Madame Delphine Lalaurie is a famous haunted mansion in the French Quarter. After a fire destroyed parts of the house, a torture chamber was discovered in the attic. Madame Lalaurie tortured slaves, cut them open alive, experimented on them, and removed body parts. Allegedly, the ghosts of the slaves still haunt the mansion.